Before the advent of Islam, the Arabian Peninsula was a land of fierce tribal loyalties, bound by complex codes of honor and survival. It was an era marked by legendary battles and tribal wars that shaped the lives of Arab clans for generations. Today we'll explore the intense conflicts and the reasons behind these wars, diving into the era of the Jahiliya wars, where survival often depended on strength, loyalty, and reputation. Jahiliya, literally meaning ignorance, is a term used to describe the pre-Islamic era in Arabia. It was a time when the social order was dictated by tribalism, where alliances and enmities among clans influenced everyday life. Historians suggest it refers not to a lack of intellect, but rather to the lack of divine guidance that Islam would later bring. During this time, tribal identity was everything, and loyalty to one's clan was paramount. In pre-Islamic Arabia, resources were scarce, and the desert environment fostered competition. Water, pasture land, and access to trade routes were highly coveted, often leading to disputes. Wars were also fought to protect honor and avenge past wrongs. The concept of vendetta, or thar, was deeply ingrained in the Arabian culture, where a slain family member's honor had to be restored. Each clan developed a strong sense of identity, bound together by blood, customs, and a willingness to fight for their tribe. These wars were governed by a strict code of honor known as muruwa, which dictated the rules of combat and loyalty. It valued courage, loyalty, and generosity. Warriors were celebrated for their bravery, and poets immortalized battles and heroes in verse. Tribal leaders often used poetry as a way to preserve their legacy, casting themselves and their tribes as noble defenders of honor. The Dahi versus GHABRA War is one of the longest and most famous wars of the Jahiliya era, lasting for decades. It was fought between the tribes of Abs and Dubian, triggered by a dispute over a horse race between two leaders. The war started when the famous horse Dahis, belonging to Qais ibn Zuhayr of the Banu Abs, was in a race with another horse called GHABRA, belonging to the Banu Dubian. During the race, members of the Banu Dubian, feeling threatened by the potential loss, allegedly obstructed Dahis, causing him to lose. This interference led to accusations and counter-accusations of cheating, dishonoring the Banu Abs and tarnishing their pride. The Banu Abs, feeling that their honor was at stake, demanded compensation and justice. However, the Banu Dubian refused. The quarrel escalated into a full-blown war involving both tribes and their allies, characterized by cycles of raids, revenge killings, and battles. This conflict highlights the intense rivalries and honor-driven vendettas common in the Jahiliya era. The DahiGaba War exemplified the Jahiliya tradition of prolonged and bloody feuds. Both tribes mobilized their warriors, and the conflict quickly spread, involving allied clans on both sides. Many battles were fought, with significant losses on each side. It was not just a clash of warriors, but also of reputations, as poets from each tribe composed verses glorifying their own fighters and shaming the other side. This exchange of poetry further fueled the animosity and perpetuated the cycle of violence. The DahiGaba War is remembered as a classic example of how minor disputes could spiral into full-scale wars in the pre-Islamic period. The tribal code of honor dictated that any affront must be avenged, often leading to prolonged conflicts with severe consequences. The war became legendary in Arabian law, symbolizing the lengths to which tribes would go to defend their honor and uphold their social status. The Basus War was another famous war of the Jahiliya era. It was a protracted conflict that lasted about 40 years, fought between the tribes of Taghlib and Baka. The war began over a minor dispute involving the killing of a camel belonging to a woman named Basus. This incident sparked a series of retaliations, leading to years of bloodshed. The conflict became a legend, symbolizing the destructiveness of tribal vengeance and the lengths to which Arabs of that time would go to defend their honor. The war began with a dispute over a camel belonging to Basus, a woman from a neighboring tribe who was living with Jasus ibn Mura of the Banu Bakr. One day, her camel strayed onto the land of Kulayb ibn Rabia, the chief of Banu Taghlib and a powerful and feared leader. When Kulayb noticed the camel trespassing, he killed it as a warning to others not to encroach on his tribe's territory. Basus, outraged by the loss of her camel, recited verses of poetry lamenting the incident and indirectly shaming Jasus for not defending her honor. Motivated by her words and bound by his duty to protect his family and allies, Jasus felt compelled to avenge the wrong. In a fit of anger, Jasus killed Kulayb, sparking a conflict that would quickly escalate into a full-blown war between the Banu Taghlib and Banu Bakr tribes. Both tribes suffered heavy casualties, and numerous battles were fought over the years. The war was not fought continuously, but rather in cycles, with periods of truce followed by renewed outbreaks of violence. Poetry played a significant role in the Basus War, as poets from both sides composed verses celebrating the valor of their warriors and mourning the dead. These poems helped preserve the memory of the conflict and reinforce the cultural values that drove the tribes to continue fighting. This war remains a prominent narrative in Arab folklore and literature, reflecting the complex web of values that governed life in pre-Islamic Arabia. The wars of Al-Hara between the Aus and Khazraj tribes were a series of internal conflicts among the people of Medina, then known as Yathrib, in pre-Islamic Arabia. These two tribes, both Arab in origin, were well established in Yathrib and often found themselves in violent feuds and rivalries, primarily over issues of power, honor, and resources. The Aus and Khazraj tribes were originally united as they migrated to Yathrib from Yemen, but they soon became embroiled in bitter competition. This rivalry worsened over time, leading to frequent battles. Tensions often arose from disputes over leadership and influence in Yathrib, as each tribe vied for dominance in the region. Additionally, their conflicts were sometimes fueled by alliances with Jewish tribes in Yathrib, such as the Banu Qurayza, Banu Nadir, and Banu Kainuka, who played strategic roles in supporting one tribe against the other for their own political interests. One of the most notable conflicts in this long-standing feud was the Battle of BUATH, which occurred around 617 CE. This was a particularly intense and destructive battle fought just a few years before the arrival of the Prophet Mohammad, peace be upon him, in Yathrib. Both the Aus and Khazraj suffered heavy losses in the battle, and the power struggle left both tribes weakened and exhausted. The memory of BUATH was still fresh when Islam reached Yathrib, and this battle would play a significant role in setting the stage for mediation and reconciliation. The Battle of Fijar or Fijar Wars was another series of conflicts that occurred in pre-Islamic Arabia during the Jahiliya period. These battles are notable for involving the Quraysh tribe of Mecca, the tribe of the Prophet Muhammad, and other allied tribes fighting against the Hawazin tribe. The Fijar Wars were unique because they violated the customary Arab rules that prohibited fighting during the sacred months, when pilgrims would travel for trade and worship. Fijar itself means immoral or sacrilegious, reflecting the taboo nature of these conflicts. The Fijar Wars were rooted in long-standing rivalries among tribes and the fiercely competitive nature of pre-Islamic Arab society, where honor, reputation and revenge were paramount. The main reason behind these wars was a dispute over trade routes and pilgrimage rites, both of which were vital sources of income and influence. Mecca, as a religious and trading center, had long enjoyed a special status, with the Quraysh tribe overseeing the Kaaba and managing much of the pilgrimage-related activities. However, other tribes like the Hawazin sought to challenge the Quraysh's dominance, particularly in lucrative trade routes and markets, leading to escalating tensions. The future prophet of Islam, young Muhammad, peace be upon him, reportedly took part in one of the battles during the Fijar Wars, serving as a helper for his uncles by gathering arrows for them. This was before he received his prophethood, and the experience is sometimes noted in Islamic history as part of his early life in Mecca. The Fijar Wars spanned several years and consisted of multiple clashes, often with intermittent periods of truce. They were marked by bloody skirmishes and fierce hand-to-hand combat in various locations, including marketplaces and neutral grounds meant for pilgrimage gatherings. One of the most intense battles took place near Ukaz, a major pre-Islamic marketplace where tribes would gather during the sacred months. These marketplaces were not just commercial hubs, but also centers for social, cultural, and poetic exchanges. The Fijar Wars disrupted this traditional peace, shocking Arab society. By violating the sacred truce, these wars eroded trust among tribes and disrupted the customary laws that had maintained order for generations. The loss of lives, resources, and peace deeply affected the tribes involved, leading many to seek ways to avoid further conflict. Eventually, tribal elders negotiated peace agreements, and the Fijar Wars ended with a truce. Islam condemned the custom of vendetta, thar, which had fueled most tribal conflicts during the Jahiliya period. The Quran teaches forgiveness, patience, and the importance of reconciling differences, a stark contrast to the tit-for-tat revenge practices that defined tribal law. The advent of Islam brought sweeping changes to Arabian society. Islam introduced a new social order that emphasized unity over tribalism, peace over vendetta, and justice over revenge. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, preached an end to Jahiliya values, encouraging tribes to abandon their feuds. With the rise of Islam, many clans accepted this new way of life, setting aside centuries-old conflicts in favor of a shared identity as Muslims. One of the most transformative aspects of Islam was the concept of the Ummah, or a unified community of believers which transcended tribal affiliations. The message of Islam brought together people from various tribes, regardless of their background or social status, under the shared identity of Muslims. The focus shifted from loyalty to one's tribe to loyalty to God and the larger Muslim community, diminishing the significance of tribal conflicts and intertribal rivalries. Thank you for watching the 10th part of Jahiliya series. In part 11 of this series, we will uncover stories of 4 men of Quraysh who broke away from the polytheism of Mecca and went looking for the religion of Ibrahim, peace be upon him. Stay tuned for this exciting history of Meccan elites. If you liked the video, please share it and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. May peace be upon you all.